Today happens to be Adi Shankara's Jayanti. Well, this Yoga Rotova, what you just chanted, is his making. An incredibly effervescent and energetic man crisscrossed this nation barefoot in those days. By the time he was 32, he went up and down 3 times, I think, and also east to west, and established spiritual process in his own way. A bit too missionary-like for my liking, but probably those were the compulsions of those times, and that's how he expressed himself. And he left at the age of 32. From the age of 12 to 32, 20 years, he was on a mission. A man, an incredible man of phenomenal capabilities, almost superhuman in his intellect, and re-established the spiritual process in this culture a little over 1,000 years ago, and still is immensely valued. If he was anywhere else in the world, a man like this, around him a whole religion would have grown. But because in this culture there was no such thing about growing a religion around any human being, even when Shiva came, Rama came, Krishna came, a religion did not grow around them. They became a part of the culture that was already there. So this has always been the way. So Shankara also became a part of this culture as one more luminary, but not the source of everything. That kind of attitude never existed in this culture. Fortunately, it still doesn't. But Shankara did some incredible things. As an intellect, if people don't understand the other dimensions of what he did, as an intellectual person, there's rarely been another human being on the planet of his intellectual capability. His scholarship, by the time he was 12 years of age, was so phenomenal that there was literally nobody in the entire length and breadth of this country who could debate with him or make a point to him. He always came out on the tops. So his entire life, the way he went about spreading his message is calling people for debates. Debates that will run for weeks on end. And in these 20 years, he did not lose a single debate. So today is his Jayanti, which means his birth anniversary. There are institutions in his name, for maybe not in the same vibrance with which the man lived. Just to tell you something about him. He was a brisk walker, obviously. So he's always walking ahead and his disciples few feet behind or few yards behind or maybe half a kilometer behind, they're always trying to catch up and running behind him. Because unless he stops, they cannot stop. This man just walks. So when he stops to eat, everybody stops to eat, otherwise they keep going. One day he was walking, and outside a village, he saw people drinking liquor and rolling around in so many conditions. He just observed this. He just walked in. Those days and even today, one of the favorite drinks in the villages is called toddy. It comes from the palm tree. It is something like the Western beer, but it looks like buttermilk. And it can be either very mildly alcoholic or it could be done very strong. This place must have been strong because people were crawling around. So he looked at this, he walked into the toddy shop, he picked up the whole pitcher of toddy and just drank it up. And just walked on, didn't crawl. So his disciples watched him drinking, and then among themselves, well, our guru is drinking. There is no need even to ask him anymore because he set the example. When he walks, we walk, when he eats, we eat, whatever he does, we do. Now he drank, next village, we must drink. They were making up their minds among themselves. So next village came, he was walking through and there he saw a blacksmith who was doing some work with molten iron, steel melted down. He went, picked it up and drank it and walked on. Of course, they don't want to drink that So, almost a superhuman being, a phenomena in his time. After 1,000 years, he still lives. People still… a large number of people still practice and recite what he has done. In many ways, well, I don't take from those traditions, but it is very much like that. He wrote something called as Saundarya Lahari. That means eulogizing the phenomenal beauty of creation, the power and beauty of creation. So, this was done so that the worship of the feminine lives in this culture. When we were consecrating Bhairavi, certain things happened and certain people were drawn to this and they came and they attended the consecration. After that they came and said, Sadhguru, what you are doing here is exactly what's written in the Saundarya Lahari. I said, well, I never read that because I don't have that kind of thing. My thing is only to close my eyes. When I want to know something, close my eyes. I can't read and get something. Otherwise I would have been a professor by now. So, the Devi, at least they say, it should be, is almost parallel to what Saundarya Lahari talks about in terms of worship of the feminine and how it should be done and whatever. I do not know the detail, I only know what they said. I am that kind of a dud. Even after being told, I still did not read it. If all of you don't keep me this busy, I could sit down and read maybe one day. Anyway, we wish to honor him today. Today is his birth anniversary. We bow down to him for the kind of being that he was. We need to produce such people on this planet. If we want humanity to rise to a new possibility, we need that kind of effervescence that what the man carries is so valuable that he walks up and down this nation. I'm saying this is not a small country. One end to another is 4,000 kilometers. And within 20 years, he walked 3 times up and down, once east and west. That's not a small thing. and all along producing literature. After walking the entire day, probably he sits in the night and writes these thousands of pages that he produced. Most incredible control over language and a phenomenal expression of a very profound wisdom. So we need to produce people like that. I'm looking forward.